why did you decide to focus on updating the original Final Fantasy Tactics rather than the War of the Lions version? I and the other members of the development team were not directly involved in War of the Lions, but I do believe that the content in the game did fully meet expectations for players at that time. However, as we look back on everything nearly 30 years later during the creation of this game, we asked ourselves what our team, those who created the original Tactics, could do to bring this game to a new generation of players. In Final Fantasy Tactics Remastered, the really good news is you can actually get Cloud as a companion much earlier in the game, which is awesome because in the late game, which is when you get Cloud, pretty much at the end of the game, he starts off at level 1 and you have to get him up to speed with your entire party, and he's doing way less damage than everybody else. So this will be great to at least get him early on. I kind of hope they redo the stats a little bit in the way that it works, because his job class soldier, especially the fact that you need the materia blade, which is a very intricate way to unlock that. I would not have gotten that on my own if my chat didn't show me or tell me exactly where and how to do it. It takes a lot to get Cloud good. But the negatives with this, and I agree too, I was very upset with the fact that there's no War of the Lions game content, which is kind of a bummer because that means no Balthier, no Luso, no Dark Knight class, no Onion Knight. All that stuff is going to be missing from this game. And I did previously record a video with my chat and you guys, like, talking about this and the negatives behind it. But since then, there's actually been an article that came out from Square Enix, an actual interview, which we'll go through really quick. We're not going to read through everything, but it does shed a lot of light on the development of this and the reasons why they decided to make this decision. And after reading that, I fully understand and totally get it. But there is still one little thing that I'm just kind of like, you know, whatever. But at least on the PC version, we'll be able to have free reign with a lot of stuff, because the modding scene for this game has been insane for the last couple years. I don't know if you guys have seen it. People have been making full-on Dissidia storyline mods and character sprites and all that stuff. It looks really fantastic the way that they've been doing that for this game. But I think that we'll be able to get some things later on. But let's just jump into this. What were your areas of main focus when you started creating the enhanced version of the game? The original game is around 30 years old, and no matter how good a game is, simply remastering or porting it won't be enough to convey that greatness to a new generation of players. Main focus was to keep everything that was great about the original game intact, but also working to further improve the game to adapt to that current era. For example, revamping the controls and UI, as well as adding full voice acting to enhance the player immersion. So rather than having the game run on an emulator or produce a remaster or a remake, the approach we took was to reinvent Final Fantasy Tactics, which sounds kind of crazy, and it does actually get even crazier because they full on go ahead and explain to us what was your biggest challenge when you faced when creating the remaster. There were a number of major challenges, but all of them stem from the fact that the master data and source code from the original game no longer existed. This isn't to say that they were mishandled or poorly managed or anything like that, but keeping that kind of data wasn't a normal thing to do at the time. In those days, we didn't have the sort of robust source management tools that exist today, and on top of that, the production workflow of the game was such that the Japanese version was produced first, and then we would create localized versions by overriding the data with that of other languages, including English. There was also no such thing as online patches or updates, so unless there was any major reason to do something different once you made the game, that was pretty much it. So I think it's fair to say that developing this game without any master data or source code was the biggest challenge. They literally had to recreate it based on feel, and they go ahead and they talk about that. How did you solve that problem? By sheer force. We analyzed a number of existing versions of the game and reconstructed the programming of the original. But there were also times where we played the original game and worked it out by feel alone. The entire process was a result of cumulative hard work on the hand of working to implement new features, while behind the scenes our work was similar to porting an old arcade game to the NES. The staff who worked on this game were real lifesavers. I can't thank them enough. Man, so this is like reinvented from the ground up Final Fantasy Tactics, and they based it off of what it felt like playing the original game. And I'm pretty sure they had the original game to the side. They were playing it side by side, seeing the way that certain inputs would feel, the way sound effects were. The UI has seen a substantial redesign. Why is this? The main reason is that we wanted players who were new to the game to be able to play it. The UI of the original was kind of confusing, from the job tree, which was basically a circle, and if you were close enough to unlocking another character, their silhouette would show up there, a little bit like of a darker sprite of them, and kind of say that you're close to unlocking this, is what I remember it being like. But we know from the PlayStation blog article, they're actually doing a job tree, so it actually shows you in a visual standpoint what two classes you need to get to level wise in order to unlock the other one. So that's kind of cool, right? A little bit more of a guide. It's a little bit more intuitive in that way. Game UIs tend to change with time and vary from platform to platform, though it's true the design choices of the game itself is also a factor. It's been a long time since the original tactics came out, so it's only natural that the UI seemed dated by modern standards. I mean, even for me, I was told by my chat that if you attack an enemy from the front, you have a lower chance of landing that attack, and they could very well block it or parry it or whatever. There's actually a percentage whenever you attack, and it tells you the likelihood of you landing that attack. And sometimes it's like 20%, maybe less than 50%. There's a lot of people that don't even know that exists. I was actually having conversations with people recently, and many of them didn't even know that that was a thing in the UI. And it's just like, it's an older game, so that actually absolutely happens. Our goal with these enhancements was to make the overall experience of the game, design of tactics, feel more of a pleasant one. So we started to reconsider any parts of the original UI that were difficult to understand, and then we undertook a complete overhaul of the UI, including adding a new feature so it would feel more comfortable for modern players. Tactics is a fantastic game. The story is really good, and the gameplay, if you like tactics games, you're gonna love this gameplay. The grind aspect of it, I personally didn't like at first because I didn't understand the proper way to go about it, but after about 1 or 2 streams, I ended up loving it and losing myself within it. So I'm excited to jump back into this, especially with the harder difficulty that they actually introduced. The game features additional conversations too. What can fans expect from these, and why did you add them to the game? Matsuno, who wrote and directed the original game, has added new character conversations for this title. In the time since the original game was released, fans had shared a lot of requests in relation to the story by making this game fully voiced. We have become able to convey the characters' emotions more accurately, and I think that because of this, we've been able to explore them and their relationships with one another in greater depth. Because of this, anybody who played the original game will be able to get to know the characters even better, while players who are new to the game will be able to understand the story more naturally and in greater depth. Some of these conversations only take place under certain specific conditions, so I hope that the players try lots of different things to discover them. I know for sure that I didn't get every single conversation that was in the original game, so now hearing that they added even more to that, that's pretty cool. There's actually another article, I think, right here from WCCF Tech. They specifically say that Matsuno revealed in terms of characters, the Japanese script of the remaster is estimated to be about 60% bigger than the original script. And he added that this figure does not include system-related text, chanting text, brave stories, sound novels, or cutscenes in terms of actual text. Matsuno said that it is difficult to compare the total between the new and old versions, but if the increased characters are of any indication, the script has significantly been expanded over the original. So yes, we're not getting War of the Lions content, but it seems like they've expanded the script in regards to the story of the original game by quite a lot, and it's done by the original creators, so that's going to be very interesting to go through and see. Maybe, I'm wondering if we should do a original playthrough of Tactics, like the PlayStation 1 version, and then jump into this since we've already played War of the Lions. You guys let me know in the comments if you guys would love to see that. I'd love to stream that, and since I understand the game a little bit more, it won't be a chore to stream. We could probably knock that out in like 2-3 streams. The updated script and full voice acting was retweaked, so this way it could be spoken like a natural conversation, which I felt that way. I didn't play the original, but I played War of the Lions, and reading it out loud to my chat on stream, I kept stumbling over certain words because it just didn't feel like something anybody would say in a natural conversation. So they actually specifically said that they retweaked a lot of the voice, because if it's spoken by voice actor as it would feel quite unnatural. So with the help from Matsuno himself, who wrote the script for the original game, they tweaked the dialogue to make it better suited for voice. So I appreciate that. I like that a lot. And also, I mean, we got some great actors that are going to be included in here. I mean, I wonder if, because they did say 60% of the script has been enhanced, Cloud and Aerith might actually have more spoken lines this time around, because they literally, I don't know, Cloud probably has like maybe 4 paragraphs of dialogue. Aerith has like 4 sentences or something like that. So I could see them going a little bit more in depth with that little side mission that you do with them. So that could be interesting to see. Now here is the big stuff right here, guys. Why did you decide to focus on updating the original Final Fantasy Tactics rather than the War of the Lions version? I and the other members of the development team were not directly involved in War of the Lions, but I do believe that the content in the game did fully meet expectations for players at that time. However, as we look back on everything nearly 30 years later during the creation of this game, we asked ourselves what our team, those who created the original Tactics, could do to bring this game to a new generation of players. It was through consideration this question that we came to the conclusion that the most appropriate path for us was to pay respect to the original game's experience and recreate that in the best form possible. I'll just keep on reading this because it continues to answer some other questions. Did you consider adding elements from Final Fantasy Tactics, the War of the Lions, like Balthier, Luso, Onion Knight, and Dark Knight jobs? They say, we did of course consider the addition of new jobs, abilities, and the characters, including the jobs featured in War of the Lions. However, the original version of Tactics is a very complete game, both from a design and story perspective. If we were to make those major changes, it would only be a loss for not only fans of the original game, but those also to the new title. I don't agree with that 100%. I totally understand why they didn't do it, because they had to recreate the game from source code, and this is the OG team. And it kind of reads as there might have been some internal beef between, I don't know, maybe Square Enix and the original creators of Tactics and those who worked on War of the Lions. Adding extra things to their original game maybe didn't sit well with them. I don't know, but the way that some of this dialogue is meshing out, it kind of feels that way. I think Max goes a little bit more in depth. I was watching him react to this on stream a couple days ago, so if you want to check out his video, I think he posted it too. It does seem that there might be some sort of inner conflict with that. I don't know, but they straight up, they just wanted to focus on Tactics. That's their first step in reviving Final Fantasy Tactics in the present, was to adhere to the original and put a spotlight in the original game's characters and jobs, as well as the original gameplay experience. So that answers that. I will say though, guys, when it comes down to it, it is a bummer because I did like the War of the Lions content, and I know many people do, and there's been like, not discourse, but there's been like a lot of people upset, rightfully so, upset over this, and I totally get it, and I'm sure they do too. I don't think this is something that they would add in as DLC later on, but I do think, at least from a PC perspective, there are some big major fans that have been modding Tactics for years and years and years, adding in some wild stuff. If you guys go back and you look, I'll be putting some stuff on the screen. They added in more characters, they added in story elements. I totally can see over the course of a few months, maybe those same modders come into the fold and add back in on PC, that is, the War of the Lions content, which is unfortunate for console players that won't be able to experience that, but that's not necessarily something you can do on consoles. I think the PC version very well could be seeing the War of the Lions content, those characters, making its way back into it via a mod of some sorts, but obviously not voiced, because it wasn't voiced in the original game or the original War of the Lions. That's just my idea on it. I don't know if that's going to exactly happen, but I've seen, especially with Square Enix remasters and re-releases, fans work really quick on Nexus mods, and they go ahead and they slap in things that the devs had a lot of oversight in, didn't think to include. One thing in particular was the Chrono Cross remaster. As day one, as soon as that came out, there was people that were actually upscaling the cutscenes and making them look a lot better quality-wise, and same thing with the background. So shout outs to modders. I know that they work hard on that stuff, and at the end of the day, I wish, you know, things could be perfect and that developers could just do these things initially, but unfortunately, it does end up becoming the case. The development team was passionate when it came to bringing an experience as close to the original as we could, and as a result, we recreated and used the original voice effects and sound effects, something I hope fans of the original in particular will enjoy as they play. Absolutely. The death screams of both the male and female characters and the monsters, the sound effects of the spells, and simple things like using items as well. Like, it has that Square Enix flair, and I love the sound effects of Tactics in general. So them recreating and using the original stuff is great. And also, on top of that, the classic version of Tactics is also included in the remaster, the PlayStation 1 version specifically. They basically asked, why did you add this in? There's an author's note. There are two English translations for Tactics, the original 1997 PlayStation text and the updated version of the War of the Lions released in 2007, which is a better English localized script, but also they added 60% more dialogue on top of that, so it'll feature both of those options. Among the fans of the original game, there will be those who believe that the game doesn't need a lot of embellishment. To be honest, I felt this way about a number of remaster titles in the past, so there was no doubt in our minds that alongside the enhanced version which is more in line with the current era and more accessible to newcomers, we should also include a classic version that is based on the original build of the game. The classic version just isn't a direct reproduction of the original game. However, we added some quality of life features such as autosave, fixed a lot of bugs, allowing players to get the same feel as they did from the original game and play comfortably on current platforms. Fans of the OG game will be satisfied with the gameplay experience. And then in general, talk about like different tips or whatever for the game, but most of you guys that are veterans and stuff, they won't have any issues with this. I think the UI is going to be in a much better space. It is. They actually straight up said that. Love the job tree rework. I think this is going to be great for a lot of newcomers, like understanding how to get to certain jobs and which ones you need to focus on level wise in order to unlock that. So that's pretty cool. 60% more dialogue than the original script. Yeah, it's coming out on PC, PlayStation 5, PS4, Xbox Series X and S and One, Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch 2. Damn, this shit is everywhere, bro. You can actually get this everywhere. Unfortunately, when it comes to the PC version, depending on how this stuff works with modders, maybe War of the Lions stuff will be added in, but only via there. I don't see Square Enix adding in DLC for this. If they did, I would hope they make it free. I kind of don't want to have to pay $20 for the War of the Lion stuff, and it just might seem like it might be worth it because characters and jobs and stuff and like the extra side content, but at the end of the day, that's not going to gel well with the gaming community because a lot of people will feel like this stuff should have been there from the jump, especially since you guys started working with it in 2018 is what this says. Project started after Final Fantasy 14 collab in 2018, with full development starting after the development of Final Fantasy 16. So after 16 was, finished being worked on, they ended up putting this together. But 3 difficulty options. I'm starting off with tactical, assuming that is the hardest difficulty. We'll be using that a lot, and the fast forward option. So pretty exciting that we'll also be able to get Cloud earlier on too. But again, major L, no War of the Lions game content, but as we can see from like that interview, it definitely seems like this team they weren't the ones that worked on the original War of the Lions like edition, and they feel some type of way about that, so they'd rather do the original game because they feel like it's the more complete version. It's already good, it's already got these jobs, you don't need that other stuff. It's kind of like how it reads off to me, which is kind of weird. I'm just saying. Let's read back through it. Hold on, wait a second. What exactly did they say? The original version of Tactics is a very complete game, both from a game design and story perspective. If we were to make those major changes, it would only be a loss for not only fans of the original game, but also those to the new to the title. So they clearly didn't want to do it. I want to hear what you guys think. Please let me know in the comments below. Are you guys excited for Final Fantasy Tactics Remaster finally coming out? And I already know that we're going to see a lot of comments about the War of the Lions stuff. But again, at least we're getting the game coming back in across all platforms, which is awesome. I'm excited for that at least. I want to give a shout out to Instant Gaming for sponsoring this video, guys. If you use our link down below in the description and also pinned in the comments, you can actually get Steam codes and PlayStation Network gift cards on Instant Gaming for crazy good prices. Rematch is $21 right now. Expedition 33, which is a $50 game, is $34 on here. Crazy that it's almost $33. And not only that, you can get a whole bunch of other stuff. I mean, we also got like Final Fantasy X on here. Oops, Final Fantasy X. Final Fantasy X is on here for $14. You got 16 and stuff. There's a lot of discounts on here if you want specifically Final Fantasy things. And then also PSN gift cards are on here as well. $94 for $100. Great discount. $75 for $68. That $50 one, that's not a good deal right there at all. But in general, these are some pretty solid deals overall. I'll be linking it down below. You guys go ahead and check it out and get yourself some games. Subscribe, hit that notification bell, help raise that 38% even higher, and also so you don't miss out on any other coverage for this game. We got 3 months until it drops, and I'll be covering everything from its release, the mods, and cool little guides and things that you can do in the background, which will be pretty exciting for a lot of you guys.